So like the meaning of Russian right now with that clearing that now that the girlfriend is like Jun-ho right now Russian to like the king model like the meaning of Russian right now is definitely for like Jun-ho to like I think to like definitely initially totally suspect Sangyeon that basically Sangyeon was like the is like him suspecting Sangyeon along the lines of like totally like Jun-ho totally think that like it was Sangyeon that had taken the life of that precise that a person who plays the RPG. So definitely one of the members. So like initially I was thinking that Jan was seriously suspecting Sanjon, but like I was like still was thinking that by the way that Sanjon will be that interacting with like Jan at that point I was thinking that eventually Jan being convinced that they did support another like kind of like mini script game that takes place that has resulted in like basically that person who plays the faculty taking some light and all that. It's like the scenario that I'm and actually I was going initially for like John to definitely suspect from John as like the person who had taken the life of that person who is taking the scenario that I was also, definitely, I'm still sitting in my book the impression that basically I can do like the person who plays the RPG that basically that key that's like in this like pocket that can be allows someone to be able to like get to or like meet like the person someone wants to meet like and but that in actuality it would be just like a game that would be the only thing that would be in like the pocket of like that person who plays the RPG. The name of the brand is for like that. So this is I'm trying to that it even showing up to that whose Ryan's thing model might have been only according to that the orders of that info to deliver like the Squid Game card to Sanjeev for like the 2024 Squid Game. It's definitely one of the trends because like I'm also glad that like Sanjeev like trying to like capture like the people behind like the Squid Game like people running this game and developing for like all these past great number of years in on a consistent basis like and everything like that might have definitely maybe like affected that the like affected that the whole systems depending on the maybe like I'm looking like ever since like Sanjan might have put up the with, like trust behind like the people behind the studio like since then I was like maybe like not even a single Squid Game might have taken place since then for like the past 2 or 3 years. So also like about the development. So like I'm looking at this might be currently it might be according to that infos orders to basically get rid of like Sanjay might be like the reason for like basically the person playing the racket even showing up this Sanjay something like thing model. That's the thing about it. But like rather than like the person playing strategy like taking the life of like Sanjay like was him to like get Sanjay to like enter into like the training report to get through like the game card. And that way like the player will bring that info would be like totally that info will be like totally setting up like the 2024 to game specifically to ensure that like Sanjay doesn't survive in like the 2024 game to be so like I'm looking like thing like the 2024 game to be precisely and specifically targeted towards like Sanjay to that make it kind of like impossible for Sanjay to be able to like win the 2024 game. This is definitely my perspective. And like in our bit only having that absolute confidence that it will be Sanjon so in the price like after like people behind like the game and everything. Definitely Sanjon. Like the studio card will be like something that like Sanjon could only see as like such like ultimate opportunity to basically enter into the game and then to like attempt for Sanjon to like try to like attempt to like capture like the people on the game. But like I was in info would only have that same or confidence that basically once like Sanjon enters like civilian language really at that point that Sanjon won't be able to Sanjon will be like totally trapped and won't be able to that do anything at all. And basically like at that point that San after like entering into like the 2024 for 24 student that Sanjon won't be leaving the 2024 student alive would be like would be along the lines info would be like all constantly thinking it's definitely one good thing. So like I'm doing that that thing scenario that I'm like info setting up like the 2024 student with the sole intent to get rid of that from the it's like in the scenario that I'm going to try on different version. So like the name of the person right now was like Mr. Choi, like the guy who got Sanjo, like basically taking out like Jun-ho and basically Salem Sanjo, like the movie with the impression right now is definitely that like solely due to like Mr. Choi, I'm looking right now. What Sanjo will be right now doing will be most likely Sanjo will be most likely tying up like Jun-ho, like unconscious Jun-ho into like a chair and like plastering like the mouth of Jun-ho as well. It's like the scenario that I'm right. So like this is like the scenario that I'm going. So like once like Jun-ho regaining back this like consciousness, I'm going to like Sang-yeon is sitting right next in front of that Jun-ho. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. And definitely since like the current situation is like basically Sang-yeon having found a student from that the batting guys like pocket as well as like jump as well right now in like Sangyong's like so close to like Sangyong and this like Sangyong right now. And this is when like definitely my other impressions are like that definitely I'm also thinking that Studium card would definitely be like a candidate Studium card is definitely one of the and like it would be like a Studium card meant for the VIPs or it would be definitely a candidate Studium card with like the number as with the respect to scenario that I'm referring. But like I'm referring like but like I'm referring like what like Sanjon will only going to be like Sanjon will be that and say he will be that taking out the studio card and then like I'm referring like by the time like Jump will be getting back to the phone it's like I'm referring like Sanjon won't be like removing like the cluster from like Jump space and Sanjon will tell Jump about like everything Sanjon has to say involving connecting to like the depth of like the Lucky guy. Definitely remember so Sang-yeon bring that telling Jungkook who wouldn't be able to speak at that point. Like Sang-yeon telling Jungkook about like the game that he played with that Lucky guy and how he had lost and basically how the Lucky guy himself had taken that and all that. Like this is Sang-yeon telling that in a calm manner, calm yet like serious manner. That Jungkook is like the scenario that I'm going to play. And then I'm going to make Sang-yeon telling Jungho that basically if Jungho still doesn't trust Sang-yeon, then like Jungho so like then like Jungho told like our Sang-yeon will be down the line from Sang-yeon telling Jungho. And then like Sang-yeon like remove like the plaster from Jungho's face as well as like untying Jungho as well. Like the scenario that I was saying. So like at that point I was saying like Jungho will like untying especially like the that Sang-yeon is innocent. It's like the scenario that I'm thinking. And then like I'm looking like Jungho like looking at like this game and then I'm looking like Sang-yeon and I was like they're telling Jungho that like they need to like stop at this game for once and for all like and they really once and for all. So like I'm looking like Sang-yeon telling Jungho that basically that about like most like I'm looking to Sang-yeon that will be telling Jungho the strategy that basically that Sang-yeon is definitely going to end up into like the 2024 Squid Game but like Junko once again has to like basically infiltrate into like the Squid Game, into like the Squid Game building and like basically like Amber Sang telling Junko to like totally bring all the forces necessary for this to like the Squid Game, and infiltrate into like the Squid Game building and basically capture like the people running like the game and all that would be along the line Sang and telling Junko. So like at that point, Amber telling Sang about like the whole evidence, the lack of evidence issues to definitely want to friends. So like I'm looking at that point, Sanjon and Junko strategizing that basically it would be like just the two of them like entering into like this cooking. But like Junko is actually like in like the 2020 cooking like I'm looking like Junko Sanjon strategizing and planning to like really for Junko to like once again like stealthily follow the band that will be taking Sanjon for like the 2021st again. And, like in a like a regular pace like basically Bob Junko to like basically right into that ship I mean like that boat or like ship that basically carries like that takes like the Sudan candidate to like Sudan and basically at that point for like Junko to like basically collect evidence and basically lab and send it and for Junko to collect evidence and send it to Jack is like really suit so that like at that point like basically like Junko will be able to like bring like all the police force into the Studian Island and that way they will be able to like bring down like the people on it again would be along the lines of the vision like Janko will be like telling Sanjeev it's like at that point it's like scenario that I'm and I'm also bring like Sanjeev and Janko totally agreeing to like first particle plan and like I'm also bring like once like Sanjeev will be eventually entering that Studian van and Sanjeev will be taken away. At that point, I'm also like this time while like Janko will be trying to like step they follow check the Studian van and open like that this time like the people behind like this game would be well prepared, especially. And then when this time info would be like even more prepared. It's definitely member friendly. So like since like info would be like by now would be like fully aware that like Sanjon goes to like really destroy like the Squid Game at all costs. Like so like I was from like info with only expecting Sanjon to try to pull something funny uh, uh like on them. So definitely like I was like info that would have improved upon like the security and surveillance by taking student candidates to like the Stadium Island, especially in the case of like Sangyam. So like I was looking at them like this person like basically so like I was looking at the people working in Stadium. I was looking like there would be more technically two vans at that point, like the van that would be taking Sangyam and like another van, Stadium van, which would be like which would be given permission to like basically to ensure that absolutely no one is like following Sangyam or anything. If that Sanjon is like trying to pull something from it or like basically or strategies in anything basically to ensure that like Sanjon is not doing anything of that sort, like to ensure that like like there will be like two vans like after like the first billion van will be leaving after like after like the first billion van would have made to a certain distance like the second billion van would be starting up and falling after like the first billion van would be like the scenario that and so like I'm like that way, like after like the scenario I'm talking about is like after like Samjon will be taken by like the first game ban and something like Jun-ho, like the last time like basically starting in Jar and like trying to like strictly follow like the first game ban, but like at that point like Jun-ho's like Jar would be like will be noticed getting noticed by that second game ban. So like I'm looking that second game ban like creating some sort of like a flaw or something. Uh, and that the block of something and resulting in that basically Jun-ho not being able to like catch up to Jun-ho not being able to like catch up to like the band that would have taken Sanjo to the purpose like was another that and that way like this time like I'm talking like Jun-ho totally missed that shit that we were taking Sanjo who would be like totally update at that point and would into like the Squid Game Island. So like that way like Jun-ho totally missing that ferry this time is like the scenario. Ferry to like Squid Game Island this time is like the scenario that I'm going to go and the Korean version. So like after that like I'm going to like it's Jun-ho's like it will be like Jun-ho's like ultimate task to like basically so like Jun-ho having tried like two around like 2 whole years of to try in trying to like find the Squid Game Island and having failed like that very same Jun-ho at that point would be once again back to like in a way would be like kind of like back to square one where like he would once again have to like try to like but like even in like a worst situation where like he would have to like while where like Jungkook absolutely knows that it really Sangyeon and like the Squid Game is like taking place in one of like the great number of islands that year and if the Sangyeon as well is like would be like participating is like participating in that Squid Game and basically like you know for their plan to work between like Jungho and Sangyeon to work like Jungho will have to like make it and find like that place at that Squid Game Island where like Squid Game could be taking place that year before like the first Squid Game event begins. Uh, that would be that extreme pressure that like Jungho would be having at that point of that scenario that I'm children. So like I'm looking Jungho once again going back to that very same fisherman and basically like jump on that development of really something for like that Squid Game Island. But like I'm looking like this year I'm looking for and I'm still thinking about the mission that like there would be like in Nabuda bought like a bunch of Squid Game Islands. It would be just like the single Squid Game Island or like the Squid Game had taken place in 2020. But like I'm looking like since like the Squid Game has been going on from 1999 and like definitely Ilnam might have made a lot of money and like Ilnam might have bought a bunch of like maybe 3 or 4 stadium at the stadium islands and each of those stadium islands will be having like a stadium buildings or like this stadium would be taking place and like number it would be like alternatively between those multiple islands that like stadium will be taking place each year taking place in Russia. So like I'm thinking like in 2024, like this game won't be like taking place in that Witching Island that like this game in like 2020 this place like the scenario that I'm looking. It's only a different island to like the scenario that I'm looking. And I'm looking like Junko that the spread is of things to like find the Squid Game Island and like Jun-ho probably finding by the time Jun-ho will be finding the Squid Game Island, it will be like the 2020 Squid Game Island that I'm not going Jun-ho to totally initially find us like the scenario that I'm so at that point maybe like Jun-ho probably finding out that like there's multiple Squid Game Islands and all that so that what is it and so like Jun-ho then hunting on the search and I'm wondering by the time Jun-ho would be finding the Squid Game Island where like the 2024 Squid Game will be taking place and personally by then like it will be already the fifth Squid Game will be taking place by then. It will also it's definitely one of the game. So like by the time Jun-ho will be finally finding the Squid Game Island and finally will be able to like incorporate into the Squid Game building. By then like I'm been the fifth Squid Game in 2024 might be taking place definitely for the range. So like the thing of in frame direction right now was that in that kind of sector game card like club HPS the written like I'm the friend that club HPS to be like totally fully belonging to that info. It's definitely not the frame direction. So like I'm looking at the input scenario that I was looking for definitely my frame direction right now is definitely that on the Sanjon is right now tying up Jun-ho onto a chair and basically looking at Sanjon maybe uh, assigning that much of choice to basically to take care of and look after Jun-ho until Sanjon returns and basically right now for Sanjon by himself and going to that club XPS where info and then the product of Jun-ho who Jun-ho is so desperate to find that very same info and showing up to that club XPS and I'm looking in that assign time and date in that student card Sanjon while he will be going to that club HTS I'm looking there will be absolutely nobody in that club HTS other than Sanjon and Info the scenario that I'm looking and Info would still have just that mask on definitely so Sanjon won't be seeing Info face but I'm looking the scenario that I'm looking at that point is for definitely Info to totally trap Sanjon into like entering and playing into the 2024 Squid Game and that's how exactly Info would be trapping Sanjon. I'm going to pretend it would be Sanjon showing up and Sanjon seeing Info and I'm going to Info will be most likely in in that exact costume of that different match. Just in that club experience is the scenario that I'm giving. At that point, Sanjon will be thinking that finally he has gotten finally he has gotten his hands on that person that's running it is good game and all that would be along the lines I'm looking Sanjon would be totally thinking at that point. But I'm looking at that point the scenario that I'm looking is Sanjon would be running towards trying to attack charging towards Rainbow trying to attacking who at that point I'm looking maybe Info straight away pulling out it's weapon is the scenario that I'm looking. So at that point Sangyeon would be stopping and at that point I'm looking to be given it would be starting to talk it's the scenario that I'm looking and about something Info totally telling Sangyeon about basically the specialty of the 2024 period that basically that basically for Sangyeon if Sangyeon wants to stop I'm looking that Info at that point making the bet with Sangyeon that basically if Sangyeon wants to stop the 20 stop the Squid Game for permanently then Sangyeon would have to enter into the 20 before Squid Game play it and win all the way to the sixth Squid Game in the 2024 Squid Game if Sangyeon wins it ends up being once again ends up being the winner of even the 24 Squid Game as well then basically as part of the bet Info would be permanently ending the entirety of the studio would be in that country would be along the lines of Info would be making the bet to Sangyeon. And I was looking at that point I was looking Info would also while index the frontman's costume and mask basically Info it'd be also telling to Sangyeon that at that point that basically he's currently the person that's running studio in that country. It would be along the lines of the really hope it were revealing to Sangyeon. So even though Sangyeon all Sangyeon will have to do at that point would be to just offer and offer Info and basically remove the mask of Info and basically capture Info. Since that alone would be the only thing Sangyeon will be having to do at that point. Because really, Ambassador definitely involved. We have that absolute confidence or like our confidence that basically Ambassador like in that club, basically it will be just like info and Sanjon alone that will be present definitely with the rest. Yeah, like info, we have that absolute confidence in Sanjon like playing and entering and playing like the uh, 2024 Squid rather than basically at that point taking advantage of that situation like the club to like easily capture info. It's like totally along the lines of like that absolute confidence that like info we have is like the scenario that I'm looking. So like info making just like that with like Sanjo and as Sanjo accepting that and basically even though the person running the studio would be right in front of Sanjo like right there in front of Sanyo, still Sanyo deciding to like basically enter instead like enter and play and they like the 2020 box to game and like permanently put an end to like the 2020 box to game. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. It. So and about the bring Sanyo at that point also possibly telling Unro that basically yet like at that point, I'm like Sanjon totally accepting like the bet and like basically Sanjon telling at that point telling him that basically Sanjon is definitely going to end up and play and win like the 2024 Squid game. Yet like even after like winning like the 2024 Squid game, even if like uh, even if like like permanently ends like the entirety of like the Korean in that country, still Sanjon would be like continuing his pursuit of like the front man info and basically would be ensure won't be stopping until he catches like like front man and bringing into like justice and getting murdered and bringing it to justice. This will be along the lines like of the threat that I'm like Sanjon at that point making it to that the front man info is standing right there in front of Sanjon is like the scenario that I'm going. So like that for betting and challenge like Sanjon not falling for that and basically Sanjon deciding to like enter and play like between the box with yeah. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at like the game. Okay, so like the film is very interesting right now for like this that's like right now she saying that I'm looking like she would definitely be like that very same woman Jumpy definitely different and Jumpy would be like jump host like younger sister definitely was kind of and that's for like the photo that like right beside her as she please that would be like the photo of her parents and like the mother would be like the mother of not only Jiangsu but also Jiangsu as well. It's like the scenario that I'm giving. And as well as like that woman in like that photo would be also like Ilnam's ex-wife. It's definitely the same question. So info would be like the son of Ilnam and like that woman in like the photo would be like the ex-wife of Ilnam and basically that her husband that's like in that photo that other person like guy in that photo would be like her husband and basically that husband would be like the uh, her second marriage and would be like John as well as like John Ho would be like the children she had in her second marriage. It's definitely my very interesting. So like the name of the Korean business like that police guy in that photo standing next to that woman and like that child in that photo would be definitely Jun Hee and like that police guy in that photo would be definitely both Jun Hee as well as Jun Ho's father and this would be how like Jun Ho as well eventually ending up that wanting to become a police would be like this connection because like that police guy in that photo would be that Jun Ho's father while in-house through father would be Ilnam, and that would be the precise reason for like why Ilnam is like the criminal like basically info as well, ending up being becoming a criminal by laptoping as like the front man and everything. It's definitely Michael friendly because like Ilnam would be like the actual father of info. While that one guy would be like the actual father of Jun-ho. So definitely Michael friend about which like Jun-ho would be like totally unaware of. It's definitely Michael very much like Jun-ho did totally believe that like Info as well is like the father of that businessman in of that Jumbo's which same farm. That like it, Info as well as like Jumbo are like actual brother and brothers and like they have the same father like that to this day like the photo would be along the lines like Jumbo would be like totally believing but like in Info would be totally knowing the truth that is like actual father of like in is definitely my dream. Although my contemporary version of the like this woman might be saying that this woman can remember the permission like Janki like Janko's like sister like while sleeping, like not having that family photo of like a father, mother, and herself like right next to her. Like I'm believing like, so precisely because of like her missing specifically her father. You know, definitely my mother impression because like I'm wondering like the her father, that policeman, would have like died in like the past. Definitely my mother impression. Might have definitely been killed now. Villanistic that hands behind like the that of like that police guy, father of black, actual father of black, Jun-ho, as well as black Junkie. It definitely might have been so. Yes, that is something my three since in terms of the friend like that woman in that photo, you definitely in like ex-wife. So like I'm in the past, like one he might have told me due to that Ilnam's like villainous nature, which like once on finding out about like to a certain extent, like he might have not wanted that villainous nature of Ilnam to that probably influence her certain. So like I'm like he might have gotten divorced from last Ilnam back then, and she might have gotten like remarried with that police like might have been what might have happened. So like at that point, like Ilham might have been extremely might have felt that extreme grudge towards like ex-wife. So like I'm friend like Ilham might have probably wanted to at that point like in a villanistic manner like the last thing Ilham might have wanted at that point might have been to like basically see Ilham like ex-wife live a happy life with her new husband. So like I'm looking so Ilham it might have definitely been William in like the instead of asking, he might have taken the life of that police guy in the photo. He would be like the father of like Jun-ho instead of Jun-ho. Definitely might have been very embarrassed. So yes, but name of the trend different right now, but like Jun-ho right now telling Sang-yeon about that them having met the for like the second time at like during like the special Squid game, like the condition this Squid game, like I'm looking during that whole fight in like that candidate Squid game candidate for and all that. Like, so just for me, definitely my preference right now is that like specifically my attention that like Ilham would be like my Ilham would be like a William's cat, like Sanjon's father definitely can be Ilham. And Sanjon's father would be like Ilham would be probably having like an identical twin brother, and that identical twin brother would be like the old man with like dementia. Ilham won't be having dementia, and like the old man with dementia would be like the one that's like that would be actually Sanjong's father. Stephanie and it would be like definitely my premise that it would be like the Sanjong's father that might have played like this game along with like Sanjong for like the first three games in like 2020. Definitely in like the 2020 games, definitely my premise. So like I'm sitting in my premise like after uh, like Sanjay's part of like the old man dementia like winning like the third stadium before like the fourth stadium like we might out only use like the response and like maybe it might be during that point that is the that like according to like Ilham or like he like like might have been taken by like the front man might have been what might have happened but he might have been impressive. So and that way like Ilham might have only played like the fourth stadium alone in like the 2020 is the film of the remission because like especially because like of like the nature of like the first three Squid games in which like basically unlike in that the fourth Squid game where like in regardless of like purposefully losing to like Sangyeon like the fact that Innam ensured to like extend out like the fourth Marvel Squid game such like Sangyeon towards like the point where like to extend that game and delay like stall away time so that like basically that the game would be over by the time that the timer will be over and like majority of players being ended would have left or died in that studio room in for like the box game like basically the fact that like Ilnam was only able to was the only able to do that thing that Ilnam had like the option to only so that only in like the box games is like according to like the nature of like the first second realizing that first and second as well as like third game that there was like absolutely no option to like delay time through such a manner for like even if that Vietnam had played like the first second or third game that still since like Vietnam won't be having like any option at all to like delay time or escape from like due to like the nature of like the first second and third game and especially because also since like basically during like the initial red light, green light game while like the old man with dementia was like at the playground like with like Sangyeon and all of the remaining game candidates like about to play the red light shooting that game. Even at that point like basically since like Jun-ho like the front man was basically shown like using his like telephone in his front man room to basically speak to someone and as like the front man is like basically telling someone, calling and informing someone as for like the preparation of like the bus will be being complete. So definitely seems uh, Jun-ho had basically tried using calling other numbers using that very same telephone in like the front man's room, and it wasn't possible. So like I'm definitely that telephone in like the front man's room in like again building would only be like there will be only a single number that will be like callable through that telephone, and that will be just like the number to like the room where like the number two like the room of in within that very sensitive building is the name of the presentation. So definitely back then like right before like the first red light green light game about to begin like basically as like info basically shown like as like the command is shown like basically calling like the calling and reporting that like the preparation of the university game complete like and since like straight away like while info switches on like the TV and straight away sees like all of the candidates like assembled in that school game room about to play like the red light green light game, and since like the old man with dementia at that point was like with Sanjon. Definitely never the ambition that like literally so like the person that like info had the at like the front man had reported as like basically the preparation of the last game is like complete would be like that call might have been towards like precisely Ilya definitely never the ambition. While like at that point itself like the person like the old man with dementia who was like playing that red light green light game was about to play that red light green light game along with like Sanjon might have definitely been Ilham that identical twin younger brother, definitely younger or older brother, certainly never the ambition. So like that person would be like the old man with dementia, but Ilham won't be having any dementia, and like the old man with dementia would be sounding positive. But Ilham with the ambition that I'm still thinking also. So like I'm wondering like what might have happened as for like in like the as well like the ambition that I'm still thinking about is basically that like the entirety of like the 2020 in like the 2020 school games that they will each games from like the red light, green light school game to like the second as well as like third school game. Like this might have all been set up in such a manner to ensure that like the old man with dementia doesn't survive or win any of this like school game. Yet like with like the old man with dementia like basically winning all of this games like I'm looking like now might have totally gotten frustrated definitely my brain, like, especially because like I'm looking at specifically my brain that like that during that in Namas like the old man dementia like them being identical twin brothers and like to that said like I'm looking like while Ilnam might have been of extremely weak at all these like games status games like the old Ilnam's like identical twin brother like he might have been exceptionally good at all these games and like Ilnam might have always like desperately that's might have done that that's selectively like just like identical twin brother but might have always been like the scenario that I'm looking and that jealousy might have been formed within Ilnam and which like as Ilnam grew up might have turned into that absolute grudge within Ilnam and like there might have actually been a friend as well along with like uh Ilnam's like identical twin brother like I'm looking like that might have been also like they might have also had like one more brother and something that might have been like the first person that like Sangyeon they are had basically after like becoming like the winner of like the 2020 Squid Game like basically well after that like when like Sangyeon had basically seen Ilnam at the hospital at that point like the person like that homeless person basically that Sangyeon had seen through the window might have definitely since like he had like kind of like I look like at that of like in like I'm looking like he might have been like also the brother was like never with primary so that he might have been like that during the sales he might have been like the person that might have been totally making fun of like in every time in might have lost to like in a little bit brother of the never with primary so like this way like I'm bring like as lead to get that as to prevent like this whole situation might have happened with like the 2020 Squid Game where like Sangyeon as well as like Sangwoo then ending up in like the having the like business and everything like getting destroyed and everything with like Sangyeon as well like totally out of the blue getting fired then as well as like for like them all ending up with like having so much stress and everything. Like it definitely might have all been like the work of Ilham to like do up all do everyone connected to that is like identical product into like the civilians so that like for Ilham to get revenge on all of them. Might have been like Ilham's plan, but like I'm looking Ilham's like top priority might have been like identical to his brother. Like the old man with the dementia, especially Michael Terence. Definitely Michael Terence for like in like the special game once like the old man with dementia had basically was got extremely scared and basically was screaming out, shouting out that he so extremely scared during that special good game that were like the candidates were like fighting each other in this good candidate room. Like I'm listening at that point, like the front man straight away that has like the old man with dementia was shouting out that he's scared. Like the front man straight away stopping that special food games might be solely due to like like the special food game events being set up might have been only according to like the orders of like Ilna to the frontman certainly on the president. Like Ilna might have been totally Ilna might like frontman might have been totally expecting for like the old man with dementia to like totally to lose and die, fail and die in like the very first red light, green light again is self-effective. So like their expectations might have been getting broken each time like the old man dementia was winning that just against and that might have frustrated like in a man might have brought back like the deja vu of like the memories of like the old man dementia that only in their childhood like basically like had only playing these games like better than in them and is really getting in them during their childhood and everything in that I'm looking like through like this battle so that like I'm looking like in them might have sweetly gotten extremely angry that once like he saw like the old man with dementia that after like winning like the red light winning like first game like him also winning like the second game as well. So like at that point like I'm looking it might have been all like according to like Williams or to like the front man to like either have like the old man with dementia either die or like the successful game of to like totally shatter and break like the morale of like the old man with dementia so that like he would be like losing in like the in hopes that that would result in like the old man with dementia would losing in like the very next game which is like the third game. So like this intent under the things intent like I'm looking like it might have been according to like Ilham's orders that I'm looking like the front man might have decided for like the special game set up like special game especially with Rangers. So like I was going like the front man even like deciding like stop and the game on seeing through like the monitor like the old man really like yeah while shouting out that he's scared like basically just like a temperature as well sharply increasing. That might have been solely due to like the orders given to like Ilham by to like the front man info that would be either like to have like the old man dementia die in like the specific game or like the morale of like the old man dementia get shattered through like this game. So like I'm looking for man might have only seen that as like basically the morale of like the old man dementia shouting out that he's there like I'm looking man might have only seen that as like his like morale being shattered. So like that might be the reason for like the man also to like stop like that special game stopping at that point. It's just I was there. So like at that point I was doing like the front man info as well as like Linda might have been only expecting for like the old man with like dementia totally like either totally ending up like with staying totally ending up losing and like might have been also according to like enough order for like to have like even like the third good game being that of like the tug of war of like once again putting that extreme disadvantage between him like the old man with dementia. So like that point I was looking like maybe like info the frontman info as well as like India might have been able to differ from that like the old man with dementia would definitely like his team would definitely be losing in that type of war. But like even then like the old man with dementia might have even surpassed the expectations and that might be how like what might have happened back then depending on the trend. So like I'm assuming like that way, like I'm looking after like the old man dementia, Ranjan's father had won, like his team had won, like even like the first game. That might have been totally unexpected for like info as well as like Ilnam, and Ilnam might have been totally extremely frustrated. So, like at that point, that came to the thing, maybe like Ilnam might have came up with like the idea to like basically set up like the host game to be like the master game and for like Ilnam, and it might have been due to that process that like Ilnam might have finally decided to like basically stealthily take the life of the old man dementia after him winning the third skin while he might have used the restroom. Especially what might have happened, especially when the Amazon man. Also definitely when the Amazon to that for the villanistic in them another thing the old man with dementia, him basically doing the special again shouting out that he's scared might have been Ilna might have totally seen that as basically as basically him getting a satisfying revenge against the poor old man is dementia. It's definitely one of the things. Because Ilna might have also seen that Squid as well as a Squid game. So what Ilna might have seen at that point might have been that person against whom he had Ilna from childhood had that absolute Chelsea and grudge toward his identical twin brother Sanjay's brother father the old man dementia basically him who was very good at all these games for his childhood as well as during his younger days basically that very same person right now totally being afraid of playing a game will be along the lines and the old man dementia extremely scared during the specific game might have been viewed by Ilnam's Stepney with friends. So what Ilnam might have been felt that basically as if Ilnam got his ultimate revenge against the for all man dementia might have been how Killa might have felt the new yet I'm assuming Killa might have only been expecting for the online opinion chat to lose in Christine to only lose in the Tago Pass weekend. So once the online division had won the his team had won the Tago Pass once again Killa might have to change of it that Killa might have decided to totally end this journey of the online opinion chat. So while the tournaments of the might have used the costume Killa might have for the format to take its life. And so India might have conveniently set up support game to be the marble Squid game so that through the nature of how the marble Squid game is India would be able to delay his time. India would be able to enter into enter and get the experience of playing the Squid game through his disguise as the old man that you mentioned is really India consciously might have only extended that delayed and stored away time while playing the marble Squid game against Sangon solely so that Ilna would towards the very end even so that the game would extend towards the very end so that there will be at least few very Squid game candidates remaining in that Squid game room of the first Squid game by the time regardless of whether it's Sanjon or Ilnam that's been that Squid game there will be only very few people candidates left or the majority of the Squid game candidates back who would be left would be also so that basically that way Ilnam would be able to even if Ilnam loses to Sanjon, Ilnam would be guaranteed his survival and stealth escape might have been what might have happened. And this might have been what Ilnam might have done. So certainly it might have been the understand right now. Okay, so definitely my book right now for Sanjon right now asking Jan so if Jun-ho knows to try to get the person that's surrounding the studio. Definitely my book right now is definitely that especially with Sanjon right now even raising his weapon at Jun-ho so prospecting Jun-ho having an involvement in the studio and they will definitely on the mission right now definitely Jun-ho would be probably keeping that critical information that's it's his brother info that he's sort of really looking for that's currently the person that's running the studio and even while Jun-ho knows his in position Jun-ho keeping that critical information from Rangyon. So it's the scenario that I'm going so I'm maybe to be towards the end of the 2024 Squid game news so I don't know I'm putting it will be only towards the end of the 2024 game that I'm going to find Sanjon would be even shockingly pointing that out that it info the brother of Jun-ho that basically the front man and the government the Squid game right now is the scenario that I'm so I'm going maybe just for a remote possibility that I'm going maybe in the 2024 Squid game I'm going every season there is also season 3 as well that about to happen for the Squid game series I'm going maybe towards the end of season 3 about the during Jun-ho's infiltration attempt to stop the 2024 game I'm looking in the 2024 Squid game I'm looking maybe after 4 day running out for Jun-ho and I'm looking maybe Jun-ho dying in like during his second preparation attempt, and there was things like like Jun-ho intervening at time towards the end of like the 2024 school games like the possible that maybe that's right before Jun-ho dies like American Jump. It might be then that like American Jump will be like finally revealing to that one that like it's like this young it's like this brother that is like sort of slightly looking for info that's like the identity of like someone. Like American like maybe like Jun-ho like revealing that particular information to like Sanjeon right before Jun-ho's death. Uh, within like from within like this billion building during like the 2024 billion. By the time like the 2024 billion will be almost over. It's like 7 scenarios that I'm going to like right now the frame. Okay, so like definitely not the prediction right now. As for like Sangyong right now revealing that Lil Nam has told Sangyong that like fourth season Lil Nam has created like this game which will lead to that lead to clients. Like I'm think that will be such an absolute lie said by Lil Nam to Sangyong. Definitely not the prediction. Like I'm still thinking about the prediction that like the sole reason for like Ilnam even creating like the studio might have been solely to like get that absolute take out the scratch and get that absolute revenge on like the old man looked like dementia which would be like Sanjung's father. That would be like biggest priority and even like Sanjung like as well as like Sang as well falling into like that eventually falling into like studio which is solely due to like also would be like Ilnam would be like the culprit behind that as well. But still, I'm looking like his like main target might have definitely been just like identical to brother. Might be like Coleman and Dimension might have been like Sanjay's father. Definitely my preference to solely to like get like ultimate revenge on like Sanjay's father, like the old man with dementia might be the sole reason for like even like creating like the studio back in like 1999 that Ilham even deciding to like create like this studio might have been solely with this goal in this like mind this whole goal in mind struggling with innovation but like I'm thinking like once like the maybe like I was going once like the money flow started to like happen like I was thinking maybe it might be at that point that like Ilham might have decided to like to turn it into like a business like kind of like a thing and basically with like something writing like the VIPs and everything like maybe I'm also thinking like it's the very first good game in 1999 but there might have been absolutely no VIPs at all. It's also like a possibility that I'm thinking. So that the 1999 very first good game might have been like a test run by like Ilham and so that's once that according to like the villains mind of like Ilham once like he felt that like the test run was like a substitute item because like Ilham might have then decided that it might have been from like the second Squid Game in like 2000 that like Ilham might have even invited like VIPs to basically watch like the to select them people that watch like the games and everything is that might have only began only from like the 2000 the second Squid Game that might have taken place that took place in like the 2000 that's me my very impression. So like the with the ambition right now, it's got like Jun-ho right now being forced being desperate to like help Sangyo and like stop like this game and then to capture like the people behind this game. Like in actually like the only thing that the biggest top priority for them will definitely be info. And basically because like right now I was able to that like Jun-ho can only seeing Sangyo as kind of like even if the right supplement already because like Jun-ho by now only like well fully aware that like Sangyo had won like the 2020 game as well as like right now have all that to reward money with him. So like I'm doing like in Jumbo right now the only thing John as like a threat that like Jumbo should allow to get to info before Jumbo because like if that happens like basically info will be playing with hands of Son John will be along the lines of like the absolute worry and fear that like Jumbo will be having especially right now, especially my brain. So, like, definitely, like, this will be so, like, I'm looking like, definitely, especially look like right now, Sanjong have received, like, card invitation to the club, and basically, Sanjong have revealed that, like, the person from the Korean, was like, I'm going to check out, expressing that, like, I'm looking the like, for Jungho, who had basically, like, from, like, problems with past, and the ability to, was, like, frantically and desperately talking to Jungho, and, like, even though Jung-ho was like searching for like the Squid Island, like in actuality, like I think Jung-ho might have been really searching for like info be like that bigger priority for Jung-ho and even like putting an end to like the Squid and everything. Even though like it's like extremely important, like it should still like even though Jun-ho is like a police officer, and so like even though it's that much extremely important, still I'm wondering like for Jun-ho personally, like it would be coming totally after like it's like top priority of like saving info. Definitely my think very much. So like definitely since like right now with like the whole club situation where like Sang is about to meet like the person running like the game like those like right now from Janko's point of view, Janko will seeing this as like ultimate opportunity after like towards the end of like the 2 year of like point of search for like info. This would be like that ultimate opportunity where like Janko will be finally able to like save find and save info. Along the line, Janko will be like right now probably seeing like the current situation just living and hence it will be collectively because of all the reason that like Janko right now is like desperately um seeking telling Sangyeon that he will help Sangyeon. So that's the name of the preambution. So that's the name of the preambution right now. That like so scenario that I'm going to bring is like that club that I'm going to bring it to be Sangyeon all by himself. Like basically showing up to that club. And I'm going to bring like the in that club like I'm going to bring like all the waiters and everyone will be like all wearing masks. And I'm going to bring like that's like the scenario that I'm doing. And like then like the front man will be showing up. I think as well probably having a mask and like he will be like sitting on the table like uh like Sangyeon as well as like him sitting beside each other like basically and like being like table sitting and then it's like the and while they will be interacting with the press. So like I'm doing like while the interaction will be happening like I'm still thinking to my brother mention that like the front man will be like totally like the invitation of Sangyeon will be to like totally get Sangyeon to totally get with the intent to like totally get rid of like Sangyeon for good through like by making Sangyeon play like the 2024 Squid Game. It's like the scenario that it should be specifically like the game should be specifically set up to make it like extremely challenging for and difficult and almost like impossible for Sangyeon to be able to like win the Nima with to be around first like the game should be set up like Nima with Rainbow. So all the details about like Sangyeon, all the health issues and everything about like Sangyeon, like all of them, all of those details and info might be in the might be in the hands of like info. So like I'm looking according to like all that like basically setting up games that would be like proved to be like impossible for like Sangyons to like bring along the line to like maybe along the line to, like info might have put in like the effort and create might be planning on creating like billions for like the 2024 Squid Game. But that has good intent to like that way get out of Sangyeon will be like info plans technically on the premise. But like I'm thinking like definitely while so like I'm really definitely still thinking about explanation where like the man showing up in that club and basically telling Sangyeon that basically Sangyeon wants to like the Squid Game to be to permanently end like basically that Sangyeon has to like play in like the 2024 billion and win like the 2024 billion. Way along the lines of like a bet like that from man will be bet and Sangyeon straight away like you'll be totally agreeing to that. It's also like so like I'm different like while this will be this whole interaction will be happening I'm also like Jun-ho would be like would have only secretly infiltrated into that club and about like Jun-ho would be also in like a disguise. It's also like a friend of the family. So as like one of like the ways of like also like scenario that I was doing and like I was like Jun-ho by the next totally by the time like Sang-yeon will be agreeing to like enter like the 20 of the game like I'm like Jun-ho will be totally making his move on and will be running towards like and would be like trying would be like maybe getting closer would be like totally capturing like the capturing like the front man is like the one possible scenario that I'm looking or like I'm looking like it's like or like I'm looking like example that totally getting close and either capturing or like running towards like the front man trying to like capture front man thinking it's like info but like I was looking right that itself like all those waiters that mask waiters with like mask would be wearing masks will be present in that club like all of them would be like each one of like those waiters and those bring like to be on the levels of that is the guy like there is that much skilled and trained to have all sorts of fighting skills and everything on the levels of that is the guy you know so like I'm looking them easily like stopping Jumbo. And I was looking at that point, like I was looking like the front man getting up and like the front man like totally thoroughly ignoring Jumbo at that point, like ignoring that Jumbo be totally caught by like the waiters who the rest of the game of the so and like and I was looking at that point like calmly like I was looking like still the front man getting up thoroughly ignoring Jun-ho, like the frontman. That point getting up and telling Sang-yeon to basically to like think well and like make a decision and build something along the lines and like him straight away leave just like that while like Jung-ho at that point like would be badly getting injured by like those waiter would be like waiters would like the mark would be like exceptionally skilled like Sugi Motors like scenario that I'm doing that way like Jung-ho getting badly injured and Jung-ho probably losing his tech on like the scenario that I'm doing and like the last thing Jung-ho would be seeing at that point would be like basically the man like totally walking away slowly, like the scenario that I'm bringing. So like my personal impression at that point is really that like basically and then I was like Sangyeon like at that point like Jungho would be like extremely disappointed in himself and extremely frustrated and disappointed in himself. So like I was like Jungho's next plan would be to like basically stealthily infiltrate into like the Squid settings like they did back to 2020 once like Sangyeon would be entering into like that Squid Game and they along the lines like Jungho would be planning but like splitting them out mention that this time like in 2020 before like the surveillance would have like and the security and surveillance would have like totally increased to a great extent by people that for experience that I'm looking definitely Jumbo, that Jumbo second to like stealthily once again forward like to get back to like Young was taken. Like totally that at the fading and basically like Jumbo not being able to like get into that ship that will be taking Sangyong as well as the pitching candidates is until like pure like this came at and it's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm sitting here with the that like eventually by the time like Jumbo would be like finally finding like the Squid island and like would be infiltrating into like West India building like and was like Jumbo finally finding like the film and there and I was like Jumbo totally like at that point like Jumbo totally fighting and capturing like the film and basically Jumbo at that point while Jumbo would be like totally uh, like would be like absolutely certain that it would be like info but like while Jumbo would be like taking off the mask of the front man at that point I'm looking like it being like a totally different person and not in this like that's this that I'm also going to happen at that point. So like I'm going in this like current like basically this like through the studio card like it was like Sangyun right now uh planning on like meeting like the person running the studio in that club like I'm going the person that's in that club that would be like first up and showing up as like from and won't be like info but like would be someone info might have assigned to like show up at like from and specifically remember the because like I'm specifically remember the that like after like the whole incident with like Jumbo and everything during the 2020 studio, I was like info might have totally left country already back then, all the way back then in 2020. So like info right now would be in like staying in like a totally different country and will be remotely controlling like, the operations of like game. Might be like the current situation and what would might be happening right now, especially on the industry. So like I'm looking for like the essential scenario to be like once like until like Jumbo would be like infiltrating into like the 2024 game and capturing like the front man and unmasking the front man and shockingly finding out that the front man is not in hope at that point while Jumbo would be like absolutely shocked. And then we're going right before that and we're going like maybe Jumbo like steadily meeting Sangyeon and basically within the studio and everything and basically telling Sangyeon about like maybe that like it being like it was never reimbursement that maybe through that during that infiltration of like John Ford like maybe like with this time like in 2024 like the security is also extremely way superior that I'm able to bring like maybe like John Ford taking in a lot of injuries. So like I'm able to bring like as John Ford finally will be figuring out like figuring out a plan to like basically like to capture info like at that point like even John Ford might be like totally not absolutely sure that basically if he would be able to like succeed in doing that, like the scenario that I'm doing. So like maybe like Janko before setting off for that mission to capture and save info, saying like the front man is info like right before that temple maybe like Janko telling, revealing at that only seeing at that point that Janko might reveal to like Sangyeon about like uh that like the front man the identity of like the front man is like into select Sangyeon and then like I'm looking like Janko quickly escaping before like other civilian workers like see Jun-ho or something along the lines of like about it than other than doing. So like this will be towards like the towards the end of like the maybe after like the fifth studio would be over, or like maybe before like the sixth again or something like would be that. So back in like 2024 when I'm in like this whole scenario and everything happened. So like I'm just like basically like the maybe like the badly injured like a Jun-ho like basically finding like the frontman and finally making his move on like the frontman like from within like the 2024 film building and like for that move like I'm looking like Jun-ho like unmasking like the frontman so any finding out that the frontman is not into at that point. The frontman of like the 2024 game is not info like really along the lines like Jun-ho probably finding out basically while Jump would be shocked like at that point I was wearing like one of the game workers or like someone like he at that point using their weapon on Jump point maybe being at that point that like Jump was left would be fine they're running out and Jump would be dying. It's like even to work with scenario as well that and doesn't roll up a ring and maybe the so like the Nina with 300% right now with Black Sangan right now showing like Jump all these like great number of weapons and like everything with like Sanjay, feeling how prepared he is to like put an end to the scheme and everything. The feeling of the conditions are like still I was bringing like the scenario, which is scenario to me like I was bringing like towards the end of season two game. I was like Sanjay would have done so much damage to like people running like the game that I was like by the time people will see the Sanjay like uh, uh, basically like appears as if like he doesn't care about anything at all in his life anymore. Like I was bringing like still like I'm assuming there would be that one element that would be like easily able to like bring Sangyeon down, and that will be like Sangyeon's thought. The remember the members. So like when those Sangyeon himself, even though right now Sangyeon himself will be totally feeling as if like he doesn't care about anything and he doesn't care like what happens to like Sangyeon and along this like even though right now that will be like the mindset of Sangyeon. And though, even though that might have been like the mindset of like Sangyeon all the way back from like from like way back from like the past 3 or 2 years, still my personal impressions that like actually in the scenario that I was bringing us up for like by the end of like season two of like Squid Game, like I was looking at Sanjon would have done so much damage to like the people coming to game that like I was looking at them totally getting revenge on Sanjon by totally eventually that abducting like Sanjon's like daughter who would be in America. Like I was looking at them totally abducting her and I was looking at them totally threatening Sanjon with her life. Like the scenario that I'm looking at, that would be like such an absolute extreme shock for Sanjan because like Sanjan would have probably forgot might have probably uh, might have totally never expected for like such a scenario, potential scenario to even happening. So definitely like the people were in like the people running against the game that targeting Sanjan's thought like that might be like a scenario that like Sanjan might have never even imagined or expected even in his like wider screen, just remember there. So like I'm looking that to be like an eventual system future scenario by the time like I'm looking like by the time like season two would be almost or like I'm looking like the scenario that I'm looking like towards the very ending of that season two like I'm looking like this would be that biggest shock of like Sanjay because like this keep running like this game like Russian Sanjay with like Sanjay's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm looking like the third Squid Game would be like Sanjay's fight to basically save Sanjay's thought while at the same and like also Sanjay's like fight to like to save both Sanjay's thought as well as to finance to like the Squid Game. It's like the winter scenario that I'm looking at the bringing out the impression. Okay, so like correction because like the girl who's like basically who was like sleeping in like the car in like in the sunlight like so it's not Junkie. So like I'm looking like the case of Junkie since like Junkie earlier was shown by basically waiting outside like a gynecology department. Like I'm looking at like the situation with Junkie might have been like Junkie and her husband might like and I'm still thinking about the person that like Junkie might be definitely like the younger sister of Jun-ho, the neuron intelligence. So they might have not been able to like they might have badly like Junkie and some of them might badly want a child. And I'm assuming they might not be like willing to like adopt a child. So like they might be wanting for like wanting adoptive baby, definitely my brain. So like the procedure like the cost for like the procedure would be something that they won't be able to like afford. And that might be the reason for like reason as to like how like I'm looking maybe like how as to like journey as well as her husband ending up with like this medium card might have happened through such a manner or something on the different. So like I'm something like them both possibly entering like the studio uh, with their absolute desire to like have their own child like I'm looking like for that like I'm looking like Janti as well as her husband entering like the 2021st year is like anyway scenario that I'm able to bring another frame. Also the film is very different right now for like women to have sleeps in the car as well as like wears like the bunny bunny outfit as well as like the girl who's like unwell, the kid who's like unwell and basically like for her father like I was definitely one of the impressions that like that woman uh who wore like so funny outfit like would be actually like the mother of that child is definitely one of that child who's unwell is definitely one of the impressions. So like she might have in like the past, like she might have been married to that father of that girl, and she might have gotten divorced from minimum agreement. So like I'm assuming like the court might have ruled in like the favor of like the father to have like the child live with her father. Definitely what kind of happened back then. So like it might have been after that, like I'm assuming like the child might have had like might have started like might have had like some health issues and everything depending on the brain pressure. So like I'm wondering like maybe it might be only right now that I'm wondering like that woman in like the bunny costume like basically she might be only now that she might have after the divorce that like she might have even realized that basically her the dog is like unwell. So also like maybe on the reverse. Like I'm wondering maybe like her ex-husband, like that child's father, might have not allowed her to like visit her child at all. So also like about that I'm wondering maybe that might be the reason for like maybe like even while her possibly being like some other like basically her even keeping on that bunny outfit and while in like the presence of like the child as well as like the child's father is definitely many tradition. So with the mic of the reimpression. So like I'm different like with her realizing like it was only now that like she was through one of her colleagues, it was only now that basically she would have realized that basically that basically like the health issue of her daughter that even with reimpression. So like and I was like the health issue might have only happened only recently as well for her daughter. So also the of the reimpression. So like yet like I'm talking like the husband might have like a lot of ego issues that like he might have not even told after the divorce like he might have even while his child had like health issues like he might have not told or informed it to his like ex-wife with the age soon in 10%. So it is pointing out that she might have found out about this like health issue of her daughter but so like I'm like right now it's definitely deciding to like to with that whole format of like her deciding to like help her child, but like still I'm looking for like the surgery, like I'm looking like a huge amount being required for like the surgery, which like certainly like the child's father won't be able to like stay at all with his like care of job, definitely. So like I'm looking like definitely to totally save her daughter and to that way to be able to like pay for like surgery and to doing like this woman definitely uh eventually getting that Squid card like definitely through that Squid card like ending up entering into like the community of Squid like the entrepreneur that I'm the question. I guess like I'm restaurant right now with like Sangon right now shopping thing like a corona sure like basically was like Sango's like not like and the fact that we are right now that Sangon will be like they're remembering his own daughter as well. Like the scenario that I was going because like Sangon right now India right now I'm looking since like the past 2 or 3 years like since like Sangon had basically taken the decision to like not board that airplane and basically when San John had received that call from like the Squid Game, like basically and San John had like, decided to like not board like that flight back then. But like since then, like San John might have totally forgot, completely forgot about like just that about the name of the community. Like San John's mind since then might have been left filled with like the thought of his like absolute desire to like basically to to put an end to like this to find like the people behind like students and put an end to like the students of ones and for those that basically through like the past 2 or 3 years that like Sanjon had chased after like the student like he to behind like the student like Sanjay right now we are realizing that like the things he had lost in that process, like basically that precious time of not and everything, like basically along the lines that Sanjay right now thinking and realizing is also definitely not the brain version. So like I'm the right now Sanjay pretty much likely I'm the Sanjay right now like calling to America and basically phoning and speaking with like doctors like the scenario that I'm talking and like Sanjay like absent or like the past years, like like Sanjay's daughter might have maybe even lost interest on Sanjay. It's also like a possibility that I'm so and I'm like Sanjay's daughter like being more bonding with like her father and her with like her stepfather. And so like that's like the scenario that I'm looking at, and that's when like Sanjay like shockingly and painfully realizing that basically it's like that this like daughter is growing more and more distant from Sanjay. And like Sanjay will be also like putting the blame on himself as well for like basically totally like in the chase of the Squid game and like creating behind the Squid game like Sanjay himself has forgotten about his thought and ignored this for like for like the past 2 or 3 years, like basically Sanjay shortly of having all those realizations right now that's the scenario that I'm living. And then like I was thinking like Sanjay with like a determined mind, like basically deciding to like basically put an end to this as soon as he can and basically like to stop like the to capture like the people behind the experience and to turn into like experience as soon as possible and for Sanjay to like basically pick up from where Sanjay had left off and basically once again board that flight to America. Because like back then when like Sanjay had basically like stepped away from boarding that flight, like back then like another thing that like Sanjay had all that reward money, Sanjay might have been through that flight, like Sanjay might have been actually in planning on like basically not only just like going to America, but like another thing like Sanjay uh, might have even gotten like the citizenship as well. So definitely I'm friends with like Sanjay back then might have been like about to board that flight and like at that point like Sanjay like might have actually Sanjay at that point might have been actually about to like travel to America and basically stay there and like live at a house like near to where his like thought lives. This might have been what like Sanjay might have been about to do back then when like Sanjay got this call from like this Indian and basically like Sanjay had stepped away from like the flight stepping up train. So, like Sanjay right now would be like thinking about that like scenario that I'm living in Sanjay deciding to like stop like the people behind the Indian and stop like this Indian put an end to like this Indian and as soon as possible Sanjay like preparing for basically to be the daughter and Sanjay remember his thought again and like Sanjay deciding to like put an end to like all this as soon as possible and basically for Sanjay to like return back to his daughter and basically like live at least like a house that's like close to where his like daughter would be living. And like because like especially with like this Sanjay sort of being like the only person in like Sanjay that Sanjay have in his life and everything basically. It's like the Sanjay totally thinking of his time with like the scenario that I'm just talking about like and this reinforcement. Also, my impression right now for like all these like 2 or 3 years passing and like she all having like grown up and basically she all even right now basically living with like Sanjay's not on like the different like the reason would be that with like Sanjay like even while having all that wealth like basically the fact that like Sanjay uh, the fact that still Sanjay wasn't able to like bring like Seoul's like parents to like the same country as that towards like Seoul like Seoul like they believe the professor reason to be most likely the country even might have actually kept like the promise to like say their ends might have totally Sangyon after getting into like about money like after like bringing Seoul to like Sangwoo but like maybe like or like right before that like like Sangyon might have totally like might have left the country and might have like on the other country like Sanjon might have totally socially found out that by basically by then like she was like and say that like parents might have both of them might have died by then especially on the particular and this might be the first reason for like she was even to like the cousin basically living with like Sangwoo's mother it's definitely my injury interest so like the name of the brain question is like she or like well as like saviors like both their parents might have died and basically yet like Sang-yeon might have totally kept that a secret from Seo, even to the person that he might be. Okay, so like the great question right now for like it's a woman know like having a 1 year old dog like trapped in across the country. Like the great question right now that me that like basically like the like Sanjana film right now like basically second to like basically get more info on like the city of like mother as well who's also trapped in that country. Like I'm considering like right now even though like city of mother is like even while in that present in that our country even while she is also unwell like I'm like city of mother right now would be like the person that would be right now taking care of like know your knows like daughter especially when the primary so like even though they take not understand well, like he might be taking care of that nodes or nodes or would be still alive even to the present day solely due to like failure of some of his kindness, which definitely might be very important. So like I'm looking like eventually by the time like Sang Yeon would be like through that person who does all this like searching and everything like and everything eventually once like Sang Yeon would be like finally getting like Seoul's like mother, Seoul and Taylor's mother and bringing Seoul and Taylor's mother to like their country. Like at that point, I was thinking that with like Seoul and Taylor's mother, like there will be also like Noel's like daughter as well. It's definitely my boyfriend. So like that's like the eventual scenario that I'm in that way through. Seoul and Taylor's mother, like basically that through Sangyeon, like I'm like Seoul getting his mother as well as like uh, Noel getting up daughter as well. Like that eventual scenario that I'm looking for. And my looking the emergence. Especially right now with like newer even noticing Sanjon leaving that very same building. Like I'm looking definitely eventually once like Sanjon will be entering into like the 2024 Squid game, like definitely Neol as well will definitely be present in like the 2024 Squid game. Definitely to make all that money so that like she could like totally keep searching so that like she would be having like the hope of like finding and being able to like save and bring back her daughter. Definitely remember the remains. So like solely due to that reason and I'm considering like for like that reason as well as like even more than that like I'm considering like the current situation like big situation that will be like ending up for no would be most likely the whole situation with that other girl so who basically would be having like basically like surgery would be requiring a huge sum of money so like to make that sum of money mainly would be like the scenario for like I'm considering like New Orleans will be ending up entering like the 21st game, especially the scenarios that I'm different. So, and I was at that point, I was doing like Neo totally recognized Sangyo as like a Indian candidate, like basically from like just things and like just different where like Neo have seen like Sangyo leaving that building, like I'm sort of like Neo totally recognized Sangyo. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And then that way, like Neo will be most likely ending up being like the first team member of like Sangyo in like the 21st game. It's also like the scenario that I was at all the and definitely like through like them both spending time together through their journey in like the 2024 studio like I'm like Sangyeon totally making the promise to like New York to like basically to use all of the spells to like basically to ensure to like find and save and bring back New York's daughter. It's like also like the scenario that I'm looking for bring another version. And also my preparations were like for like unlike in like Savior's case, like I'm looking like in Neol's case, like I'm looking like Neol would be totally surviving like the 2024 game. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. The player was looking like the 2024 game to not run successfully at all. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. Usually I'm looking like the fight to like break out in like the 2024 game with like the VIPs as well as like the front man whoever it was the player was even like the front man in like during the war that will be like running like the 20 blocks and won't be like in hope the minimum train. So like that front man as well as like and maybe like that front man getting captured is also like about which that and it doesn't get like I'm looking definitely the VIPs maybe like probably still managing to like escape. It's also like about looking that I'm working towards land like the skill game maybe like eventually by the sixth game would be taking place and something like that. Remaining police was showing up to like the game island and basically the Squid game like ending was like getting interrupted during like the sixth game like the 20 first game. So like the ending scenario that I'm doing and that way like eventually I'm doing and like in like Savior just like I'm doing like Neo totally surviving along with like Sanjo even after like the whole 2020 for Squid Game would be like interrupted and that way ending like the scenario that I'm looking and that way like New York as well as San John once they were coming back to like the city like and everything like that way like San John using his wealth and like uh, using his like money to like and getting back like bringing back like finding and bringing back like New York store. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And still remember the mention that like it will be like Cheol like mother, Cheol and Failures mother would be like taking care of like New York daughter. Uh, by sheer coincidence, like the scenario that I'm doing. So like when she will be like brought back to like the to like the country where San Jonathan and she, New Orleans in like New York has been getting her daughter as well. Like the eventual scenario that is sitting on the end of the question. Okay, so that definitely know the reaction right now with like it being like the such anniversary of like imposed like right like I'm bring definitely like that's the reason like the culprit behind like the that was like imposed wives as well. The convicted at the in the university when foreign court like only unaware of this especially my person. It wouldn't just be like imposed wife alone, but like even like Jun-ho, Jun-ho as well as his stepfather as well would have died due to that enormous neighborhood infection. So definitely like this would all be like and I'm wondering like Ilnam even taking the life of that in-house wife like from my personal impression that might have been what might have happened and that might have been like Ilnam and from my personal impression I'm wondering like Ilnam would be like the actual father of in-house. So that the precise reason for like Ilnam even taking the life of that in-house wife as well, which would be like for me to like eventually to turn into like someone who has absolutely nobody in his life and basically to like put in all that pressure and to make info feel as if that is lack of bottom so that like that way to like basically eventually like to that way trick and lure info into like basically playing like the Squid Game. And basically so that like definitely like through like the Squid Game like definitely I'm just remember mention that Vietnam might have only helped out unfairly helped out like in the year 2015 while Info was like a Squid Game candidate and that might be how like Info might have ended up becoming the winner of like the 2015 Squid Game. And that might have all been like Vietnam's like selfish and realistic plan to that definitely to get back his son in hope is definitely one operation. And that might have been what exactly might have happened like this like in now possibly definitely possibly being like the person who might have taken the life of like Stingho's wife and that other like Stingho might have also known that basically Jun-ho is not his like actual brother as well. So definitely one operation. So definitely at that point like when Ilna might have shown up after like Stingho's after like impose like victory in like the 20 games to game like definitely like the command back then might out of the brought Inho to like the home where like Ilnam was in like the game building and like that might have been what might have happened and like then Ilnam might have revealed to like Inho about like that is Ilnam like Inho's like actual father and all that definitely but like at that point Info who had up who might have been of like a mindset as like he has absolutely no one else like for Info like ambassador like Ilna like she might have like info and ambassador info for like might have grown up like longing to like basically be able to like meet his father and it's definitely my dream. So like after all this great number of years finally info might have met his like father in towards the end of like the 2015 studio might have been once like the 2015 studio was over might have been what might have happened you know so like Ilna might have straight away so like Info might have straight away agreed to like basically stay with that Ilna and basically and like Info that definitely might have not been rewarded might have not gotten like the reward money at all certainly with the rest so like Ilna might have told Info that basically because like uh, because like in Nam had basic like but when like Nam I told him to like basically stay with like in Nam and basically work like the front man in like the skill games and basically do it like that way like to then basically eventually like bit by bit it's like that two steps that Info might have had like would be like slowly getting getting like paid like bit by bit like as long as like Info like spends their life with like enough as like working as like the front man might have been what like the conditions and the deal that Inam might have sold to that info back then, and like info might have totally agree. It's definitely my good impression. That might have been what might have happened. It's definitely my good impression. So and after like with that info having stayed and lived with that enough for such a long time, like and like maybe info his mindset as well might have changed to the point where like even after like Ilham's death, like info might have wanted to like still even though info was like free still free to like escape like still info might have already decided to like and at that point like all the wealth like belongs to like Ilham might have fallen on the like info fans as well might have been what might have happened. Yet like I'm looking like with like info having spent so much time with like Ilham like I'm looking like Ilham's like presence might not only like affected like and influence info to the point where like even after info was free like info might have not wanted to like free himself or like escape and they from like Williams and info might have decided to like continue on with like father Ilham's legacy by like basically taking over in charge of like the Squid Games and taking Squid Games forward through the future. Might be of like the mindset that might have happened to like definitely one of the reason. This might be the first reason for like even right now it will be like even though numbers are bringing it to be like from a different country that's through in a remote manner like info would be most likely controlling and doing the organizing and everything for like this to game for like the 28 yet like info would be like uh, determined to like have like the 2024 Squid Game be a success. And basically through that to like get rid of Sanjeon so that like basically from 2024 like basically once again like the Squid Games could continue each year. Might be like the plan of that info. Definitely my good friend. So like I'm really my good friend so that like after like Sanjeon has basically like spend all of his money into like basically putting on the trust to like find like the people who can tell the Squid Games like since that trust began by Sanjeon like when Sanjeon had spent all of his money reward money to like find the people behind the Squid Game. Like since then, after the Squid Games might have gotten interrupted each year since then. It's definitely a good example. So like this will be like ensure that the 2024 Squid Game becomes a success and basically that Sanjon ends up playing in like the 2024 Squid Game will be like of that much of like an extremely high priority for like info. We should be deciding like in order for like for sure good games to like continue on take place each year from that point on. It's definitely my commentary and percent. So like the name of the impressions that like info in like according to my impression I'm something like info for like spending and staying with like in might not only got framework by in to like the point of like usually info not even caring to like show up for like the anniversary of his wife even to the percentage definitely my the impression so like it would be like always each year like during this time of like the death anniversary of the like late wife like even at that point like info would be like totally filled with the thoughts of like how to make like the next year's experience like even better than like the previous year and they really would be like only busy with like the whole preparation for like the next year's game and everything is definitely one of the things. That way, like info I don't maybe like probably gotten trained by Ilham is definitely one of the things. Yet like I'm looking somewhere these have been like info there would be that like uh bond of that brotherhood affection that info had before leaving Jun-ho that would still be present within info towards like Jun-ho. It's definitely one of the things and still be like the purpose and sole reason for like info purposefully like using that weapon in such a manner against like Junko. And like it might have ended up consciously that Info might have let Junko live back then. While Info used the black weapon on Junko back then. On the top of that first back then, it's definitely might have the real. But okay, so let's definitely run the impression right now with the reveal that like Junko's mother is not like the third mother of Info. Like definitely the impression that's what like so what might have happened in like the past might have been like they in now basically it's like definitely after like starting a family like I'm looking like in and once like info was born and like back when like info might have was like a baby like maybe it might have been at that point that like in now might have been like totally focused on just like all sorts of wilderness plans to like create like the ultimate skin and the things. So like I'm looking like Inam might have been doing all sorts of cheating and everything to like make a whole lot of money with the intent to like use all that money to like create like the ultimate skin. So like this phase of like Ilnam might have been going on. So like I was looking like at that point like Ilnam like why who might have been like a genuinely good person, like she might have only objected to or just like villainous figures of like Ilnam and like that eventually it might have got to the point where like Ilnam might have taken up like it's like the scenario that I'm going to say. Ilnam might have taken the life of his wife and then like Ilnam might have abandoned info. Might have been what might have happened in like the recent last episode. So like I'm just like back then like Jun-ho's mother like might have totally found this abandoned baby somewhere in front of her door or something might have been such a scenario that might have happened. So Jun-ho's mother might have totally taken an info at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm thinking like so like she too might have been married and like she and they might have had kids back then. So like they might have taken it info and like info that way might have grew up with like Jaco's mother, Jaco's parents might have been what might have happened. So like I'm thinking like without much great delay, like I'm thinking like Jun-ho as well as like Jun-hee might have been born, might have been what might have happened. Especially when the invasion. So like then I was thinking like basically it might have been like definitely like as info grew up like info might have like I'm thinking like Jun-ho's mother like basically Jun-ho's parents might have kept it a secret from info that like info was not the actual child the new generation. So, like info might have grew up totally believing and that was been not it might have not just been info but like info as well as like Jun-ho might have totally grew up totally believing that like like that info is like Jun-ho like actual father and everything was definitely very interesting. So like get like I'm looking at like info grew up like info might have totally felt just like indifference towards like how that Jun-ho's mother treated info and compared to like how she treated Jun-ho actual child. It definitely knows the language. So like info might have felt just like indifference kind of like a feeling. And that like disturbance might have existed within like info from way back and certainly knows the language. So like I'm looking like eventually it might have been like eventually one like getting married and like growing up and up like getting married and really up like might have been like in a happy life like it might have been from that point that I'm like Ilna might have made his like next move by like because like by then like Ilna might have made all that money and might have created all this like Squid Games and like Squid Game building and for the Squid Game Island and everything like Ilna might have done by then. So like I'm feeling like eventually by the time that Ilna might have okay, eventually I'm feeling like initially I'm feeling like the like Squid Games like it might the front man might have been like Ilna's front is definitely Ilna's the front of the thing definitely might have been so eventually as like time passed like I'm looking like maybe Ilna might have felt that basically to basically have the actual some like info basically the way that he had done that thing like this in box like basically to bring him and to make him as like the front man to replace his front with like info maybe along the lines like Ilna might have this so like I'm looking like to eventually get and lure and bring Ilna info to like basically entering into like Squid Games like to make that happen and looking like Ilna might have seen the villains quickly uh, taken the life still taken the life of like Info's wife and might have thoroughly destroyed like Info's life in every way possible. So like enough and then was like after like Info's wife until then like Info might have been leading a proper and happy life like but like I'm looking like after like uh Info's like wife that like I'm looking like Info might have only thoroughly get gotten drunk and like basically might have not gone to work and might have only gotten drunk and might have been like wasting away his life while like Jun-ho at that point might have seen that might have got his like police job and everything. So like I was Jun-ho's like career and everything might have been like going up and up while like Info what I know might have been like only going for the person and everything is the thing. Like at one point I was doing uh, like basically Jun-ho's mother might have been so extremely fed up like info that like she might have while shouting out and scolding the phone, like, she might have accidentally spilled out like basically it might have actually slipped from her mouth like basically the fact that info is not some handful from so like on top of like info being in that absolute separate kind of like a situation like info even we are finding shortly finding out that he's not that the person whom he thought was his mother is not his actual mother. Basically at that point it is the people who he thought that were his actual parents are not his actual parents. Basically when info might have shockingly that we found out about it I'm looking on top of being extremely disturbed and usually and because on top of that go up finding this as well out in a certain manner might have straight away told and that one told that Jun-ho's mother that he knew that they really she was treating info differently and prioritizing Jun-ho way more than info and all info might have said along such lines to Jun-ho's mother and info might have that their home back then that they informator left their home and basically since that then informator never returned. Who definitely going to bring it. So and after info leaving their home and what might have happened in most life might have been info falling into maybe left the trap of betting and I'm going to even that for that as well to happen I was maybe the villain might have brought in people into working for Ilnam into the life of info and basically that way influencing info to start support betting and everything so that way info might have ended up in that extreme to depth and that way eventually and during this time info might have even lost this job as well and maybe all the behind all I'm looking in villain stick hand might be often famous so that way through illness business from I'm looking info without realizing all this might have ended up and even info spice the as well certainly it will be the work of Ilnam is definitely one reason solely due to Ilnam wanting info as just frontman so carry on with legacy will be along the lines Ilnam might have win the same spot but it's me so Ilnam getting more and more old Ilnam might have wanted to basically for the students to continue through its some actual some might have been around the lines Ilnam might have felt so solely due to that it's been selfishness around the Ilnam might have only simply thoroughly destroyed Info's life and that way eventually might have blew up Info into entering into the 2015 the game and that way Info might have only eventually gotten brainwashed Info and at that point the situation with Info might have been as if he might have Info might have been totally feeling that unwanted in his life basically since the moment after Info those things as of info as there's absolutely no one info this is wife as well as info totally finding out about him the people who may thought were his parents are not his actual parents and all that so and totally Rina might have totally taken advantage of that situation of info to basically eventually want after info want the critical things to the end Vilna might have only taken advantage of info situation to reveal to info that Ilna must info father and I was Ilna might have only lied to info about him abandoning info back when info was only a baby and I was him might have cooked up some sort of a fake story and that way Ilna might have only trick info and info might have only felt that absolute comfort in the presence of Ilna and by spending time with Ilna as Ilna's son. So for info it might have been a huge change with info feeling as Bunde relieved us that he has finally found his actual mother and he's feeling all that and that's his family and all that. With the along lines info for info might have been feeling so I'm wondering that might be how info right now even after enough that with me while info would totally would be in a situation where info would totally choose to abandon the students choose to end the students till info would be in that absolute top power in the hierarchy of the student student thing that will be taking place in that country still I'm going to bring info only solely due to that brainwashing by Inam will be right now. The good bit of try to carry on the legacy of Inam and will be continue connecting the game easier. Will be the whole situation and that situation with in info. And this might be what might have happened with it was past life as well, but Lee might be very much right now. Okay, so definitely have a plan structure right now as for how exactly back when Jun-ho was about to die and basically needed that kidney in order for Jun-ho to survive basically during that situation I'm Jun-ho's mother might have only gotten absolutely selfish and might have like totally prioritized only Jun-ho's life and might have totally disregarded that in-house totally at all. That is like the scenario that I'm looking at. And like her, she might have like, to like trick somehow trick. She might have totally Jun-ho's mother might have totally gotten desperate to the point of like her thinking of like somehow wanting to like trick Info into like making Info give his like kidney to like Jun-ho. And like I'm like what to like make Info to that like I'm like what she might have done might have been like she might have like jumped out now that might have like probably showed Info revealed to like Info that basically that she knows where Info's father is. It's definitely my preference because like I'm like in the distant past like back when like Info might was like a baby like I'm like Jumbo's like parents might have not had kids so like I'm like back then like Ilnam in the recent past, like Ilham might have only taken the life of his like wife, uh, due to like Ilham's wife like probably like objecting like basically against like totally being against like Ilham like all sorts of wilderness plants and everything like to make money that like Ilham might have been doing back then. So like Ilham's wife might have been like totally objecting against that and like Ilham's wife might have only threatened Ilham to like basically expose about like Ilham's villains to like the police and everything. So like at that point, might even like Ilna might have taken the life of his wife at the female brain. So like then like Ilna might have decided to like Ilna at that point might have been extremely selfish and might have only thing in Ilna might have been like to achieve like ultimate goal of like basically making that even through cheating that to make for Ilna to make a lot of money and then need to create this like ultimate to get and basically like that way to like get revenge on like his like identical twin brother and all this like this. He might have been like in the ultimate goal to create those like ultimate squid game of revenge will be like Ilham like only thing in like Ilham might even as like Ilham has grew up like that might have not changed at all. Definitely one of the premises. So like I'm like Ilham after getting rid and taking the life of like Ilham's wife like this Ilham might have totally turned it into like making it appear as if like it was like an accident might have been what Ilham might have done back then and like during that entire time, like while Ilham's wife was like alive, like she might have been like the one that might have been taking care of like Info, the baby Info, definitely one of the friends. Ilham might be like totally extremely selfish and wouldn't might have not even cared about family at all. It's definitely one of the friends. So like after like Ilham might have taken the life of like his wife, like and like what Ilham might have done might have been like after like turning it into like making it seem as like an accident, it was like an accident that she had died due to like some accident or something like after that, like Ilna might have okay, given info, the baby info to like his relative, like which might be like Jungkook's parents, especially when the famous and Jungkook's mother might have been like Ilna's relative, especially when the famous. So, and since like she might have not had kids for a while, like and something like Ilna might have probably decided to like give to like only get rid of that info by giving info the baby info to like Jungkook's mother. Might have been what might have happened with New Generation. Since like then like like and said after that like without the great Jungkook might have been born with new interpretation. And at that point itself, like I'm also like when like Jungkook's mother might have got the baby in hold, like at that point she might have been totally over the moon and extremely awkward and might have been seeing like in info as like absolutely precious. But like once the moment Jungkook was born, like I'm believing all that might have changed and she might have totally this indifference might have been formed within her. Jungkook not towards like info while only seeing like Jungkook as her actual son. It's definitely my secondary impression. So and I'm remembering that even from at a moment she might have brought up info while even making info aware that basically info is not her. That like she's not info like actual mother is definitely one of the brain machine. Yeah, like I'm remembering like info might have badly wanted to know who as a so like I'm remembering like ever since like info's childhood like info might have badly wanted to know who info like who her parents are. Definitely one of the brain machine. And then this is like Jungho's mother might have only lied to like info about like Chinnam being like the actual father of Jun-ho, like after like the identity of like that parents of like Jun-ho. It's definitely very promising. So like and something like she might have totally lied, like Jun-ho's that mother might have totally lied that to info about like basically how she got info and all that. Definitely one of the things. She might have like kept that basic information that like Ilna was like Info's father like from Info might have been what might have happened. So like Info as he grew up, like even from his childhood might have always desperately wanted to know who his like true parents are. definitely not the direction. So like I'm doing like as time passed and eventually one like the whole situation was like the black Jun-ho about to die and Jun-ho needing like need to like survive like basically in that situation like I'm looking like Jin-ho I mean like Jun-ho's mother might have decided to like totally use that like basically that like absolute desire of info to like know who the like parents are to give that information to info in exchange of like basically uh in exchange of like in exchange for like info uh like basically giving this like kidney concept kidney to like Jumbo might have been what like she might have done back then like Jumbo's mother might have said to take down. So like I'm in that way in exchange for that information as to like who like Infos parents are like affecting info that might have been like the bride that like Jumbo's mother might have made with like info poor info especially when friends like poor info who might have been so the friend like those like those parents are might have straight away even prioritize like basically even saving his like wife over like basically that absolutely correct like no those parents are might have caused like info to like even go to the extreme extent of like making such decision of like basically even like basically given this kidney to like Jumbo and totally like even forgetting about like involved wife about like saving involved wife is like even prioritizing like the identity of his like finding out that your parents even more than like involved wife might have been what might happen that way like I'm looking maybe like the what like I'm looking info might have info might not only prioritize like knowing that information more than like ensuring that his wife gets saved is the minimum so like I'm looking that way like either like what might have happened was people might have been like okay, kind of like assuming that it will still should like even by people might have seen it like by the like still that it might have still like somehow like the cure would be along the lines like might have like try to make him the illegal stuff and before like quite like basically uh, suffering like increasing like with intensity like even before that like I'm looking info might have undergone like the procedure to like basically to give his like kidney to like jump host pretty much. So like I was wondering by the time like the procedure was over and by the time the info might have like gained back his like consciousness after like surgery like I'm looking like by then like info quite might have already died of definitely might be pretty impression. So like at that point I was like jump host mother might have been totally feeling that absolute guilt and like even John as well might have been totally feeling that absolute guilt within uh, due to like Info's wife dying, it's like the scenario that might have happened. But like in the case of like Info, like Info might have sort of like gone into like for some kind of like a state, like kind of like a totally blank kind of like a state. And at that point, like I'm wondering like Info just simply might have totally felt that like not staying in that place where like Info might have the only thing in his mind at that point might have been to like totally find Info's true parents and basically like at that point Info might have went into like song like basically Jungkook as well as like Jungkook's mother like Info might have totally the thing in Info's mind how Info might have felt might have been like totally distant to them at that point might have been that what Info might have felt like the only thing in Info's mind might have been to like totally find just like through parents and to like live with them so like in that absolute desire like Info might have stayed in that like left jump out of the left jump out mother that all the way back then and might have since then like they might have never been info info might have never returned back since then it's definitely what might have happened with the Indian Army very much I said definitely on my book very interesting right now that like but still it would be even right now it would be like near substance that would be in that like purple like bunny costing supplement with pain. So like for me or to that topic you know that child like and this time like I'm like in the big because of like the words that basically that person in New York had basically assigned to like basically so for like sub dot like basically in like the just like final words or so recently to let me all being to like forget about the top like I'm looking like Newell might have taken that seriously because like I'm looking like Newell as well might have eventually felt that basically that the possibility of not being having survived uh, uh, not being that not there being not much of a chance of that like might have been along the lines that even eventually finally Newell as well might have felt it's a new friend. So like I'm looking every time like Newell would be right now seeing this that this child Newell would be like totally uh, reminder of that. lot of like new information. And also things like near even knowing like about like the health issues of like the child as well, like or might have been like might be even in a split kind of like a state where like she can't decide whether to like really if she might be later on feeling as if like giving her bone marrow to save that child, but like still like Neil might be also be on the fence, like won't be able to let it out. And like since like that seeing that child like would be like actually reminding me all of that stuff thought like those something like definitely Neil might be like really trying to like forget about her daughter right now, and that would be the favorite reason for like Neil or like ignore that child. Definitely it might be the reaction. So and also my good impression is from like the civilian car that basically Neon had received in like the middle of the night. Like Neon exactly like every civilian candidate would be like entering into like the civilian for like the first time, like Neon as well, and the thing like to be Neon for like first time as well. So like Neon as well just having absolutely no idea at all as to like the seriousness of like the students as to like the seriousness of like the reward as well. If like Neon even wins like the students, like Neon will be actually getting like that huge reward money and all that, like such quantity of money, like basically as like how huge it is and all that, like just like New York has absolutely no idea about any of that, like that as well would be like a main factor right now in New York. Totally like would be like struggling to like only ignore that child, but still like New York totally ignoring that child will be like exactly New York's like the first attempt to like totally forget about like not only that child, but that through that ignoring that child, then you are desperately trying to like forget about stuff. Sort of is like the scenario and trying to like move on. It's like will be watching me all right now, attempting to all the ignoring is definitely the impression right now. Also, my good impression is for like the mental scenario that I'm also trying like that like even though right now Neil will be totally struggling to like basically ignore that child, but like I'm like still after some time like I'm like Neil totally feeling that extreme guilt for like ignoring that child, that I'm like Neil would be like that guilt causing Neil to like desperately and frankly like run throughout that entire like that path like area searching for that child, but like I'm by then like I'm the scenario might be like the child's like health getting worse, and basically the child to be getting rushed to like the hospital is like the scenario that I'm doing. So like this like kind of like a situation coupled with like new guilt of like during time itself like ignoring like that child, like I'm doing that kid and that kid situation like supporting in like Neo being desperate to like to save that child, and that Neo taking the decision to like give her from her get like Amazon there will be like that whole money like serious like money shortage for like the surgery is like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point would even like Neo would be like even thinking about like Neo at that point would be like trying to borrow money from all sorts of places, but like I'm looking like that not looking out for Neo either. So like I'm looking at that point like Neo, like that card would be like the last option for Neo, even though like Neo won't be even taking that card, Syrian card even seriously. As to like the possibility of like there being any genuinity to that card or anything, like I'm looking like Neo would be totally not believing that like yet like I was like when all tours of like New York would be like closing like I'm the movie like at the last option like if the car would be like the only last option for New York, so like that way like New York ending up showing up to like that first location, calling the number in that card, and basically that way like New York that showing up to like the location on the day of like the studio man will be showing up to pick up New York that was scenario, and that way like New York entering into like the studio. It's like doing the scenario that I'm looking at.